What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time stopping in, my name is Dave. As you guessed from the name of my channel, I own a yellow 2004 C5 Corvette. Basically, the channel just goes around my ownership of the vehicle, different maintenance items that I've done throughout the years, and as well as common issues that I've come across, and obviously modifications. So if that is something that you'd like to see, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. And then welcome to this week's episode of In the Passenger Seat. This is the fourth episode. Basically, this is just a series where I bring on fellow YouTubers just to talk a little bit about, obviously, their cars, because that's what everybody likes to know, is about their cars. And obviously a little bit about that person behind the camera, get to know them a little bit more. And tonight I have my buddy Jeff over at Zipity's Garage. He is new to the YouTube world, so take it easy on him. He's still trying to figure all this out. But even though he's new to YouTube, he is not new to the Corvette community. He's been in it for 20 plus years now, Jeff.
Yep.
So Jeff, just quick introduction on yourself and Zipity's Garage, since you pretty much just started. But I am jealous because you have like over 300 subs in like probably not even a month.
Not a month.
It took me probably 6 months to get 300 subs. So quick introduction.
Sure. Like I said, name's Jeff Duda. All my life been teased about my last name, so that's where the Zipity comes from. So now I have fun with it. But I remember as probably about 10 years old going for a ride in a 1979 Corvette, family friend. It was dark blue with an oyster interior, 4-speed on the floor, and I remember Queen, Another One Bites the Dust, playing on the 8-track. Me and my buddy and his father, it was his dad's car. The three of us went out for a ride in this thing, and I was hooked. So my father had a Corvette. He's had a Camaro, so he's been into cars as well. So sort of been into it ever since, and fell in love with the Corvette at a young age, and a lifelong dream to finally own one, and now I have fun with it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Why did you start the YouTube channel? Because I mean, like I just said, you've been in it for 20 years. A lot of us started YouTube, and now we're starting to make connections. But like, you already have those connections, which is pretty cool to see and to know. So why YouTube now?
Yeah, my cousin out in Pittsburgh, he has a channel. His name's Brian. It's Pittsburgh Views. His last name's Phillips, so it's Pittsburgh Views. And he's been on me about starting a channel. And then, after I met you and Scott over the years at the takeover, what the hell? Let's give this a go. And over the holidays here with pandemic and this, that, not everything happened, and I'm like, let me hit record, see what happens. I'll get a couple uploads, and had no idea how to edit some of these things. And hell, I figured out that I was recording in like 480p as opposed to 4K and everything else. So just an opportunity to have an outlet, something to do. Like I said, it's January in New Jersey, so you're not driving the car. So let's have some fun and make some content and see where it goes.
Yep. So. Now you submitted for my virtual Corvette show. You were in a very tough bracket, but you still did very, very well. Many people hopefully recognize the car from the thumbnail and recognize the car from that video. But tell us a little bit about the C5Z.
It's
and what you have done to it.
Yep, it's a 2004 Commemorative Edition Z06. It's the Le Mans blue car with the factory, hood stripe, roof stripe, and then across the trunk as well. And it's our second Corvette. I had a 98 convertible, all black, then moved up to the Z06 when that came out in 2004. Bought it as it was a kind of, I won't say a leftover, but the 05s were already on the lot at the time. So got a killer deal on it, and been into it ever since. And for the first, I'd say probably 3 or 4 years, it was bone stock. A couple appearance modifications done here and there, but no real performance mods or anything like that. And then I'd say probably after about 3 or 4 years, I finally cracked the cherry of the thing and put an exhaust on it. And then from there, it just went, downhill fast.
Yep.
It's a head and cam car. It's got LS3 heads, LS3 intake, mild cam from the guys at Complete Street Motorsports. Complete Street Performance down in Westchester. who I know you guys know.
Yep.
And
What did it make on the dyno, if you remember?
if I remember, I think it's like right around 400 wheel, close to 400 wheel, all motor. And it was more than that. I can look at. I got the dyno cheat here behind me somewhere.
Okay.
But it's
I'm so curious.
Yeah, when we had the '98 convertible, I ended up doing a track day, believe it or not, in a convertible with the Delaware Valley Miata Club. And you hear Miata, everybody thinks chick cars, but if you follow motorsports, you know that the SCCA is made up of a ton of Miata guys.
Mm-hmm.
And went up to Pocono, took the Corvette up there, and I did one day. I'm like, let's see what this thing's all about. I made it through about 3/4 of the first day. And from the Poconos, I called my office and said, I'm calling out of work tomorrow. I'm not coming in. So I stayed for the second day of the track day.
Nice.
And so I was hooked on the track events and so forth. And that's what prompted us to look at the Z06, more generated for track use and so forth, being a fixed roof and everything else. And now the car, it's got coilovers, Brembo brakes on the thing. So it's set up for the track, full on carbon fiber race seat in the thing with a 6-point harness. So it's a fun track car.
Nice.
But, can still take it out and use it on the street. I still use it for parades. My daughter, she turns 12 here this week on Saturday. So we'll still take it out for 4th of July parades and things like that. So she loves sitting in the passenger seat, throwing candy out the window. So,
Now, quick little fun thing to do before we jumped on here. I confirmed with you that there was 2025 commemorative edition Z06s produced in 2004.
Correct.
You told me what production number yours was. So going out to all the viewers here in the live stream to win a shirt from yours truly, guess what his production number is, and closest to it wins a shirt. And then we'll continue on. We'll let everybody throw up a guess. You get one guess, closest to it wins. We're not going to do any Prices Right rules. Hopefully my math is quick enough to determine if you're a little bit over, I can determine that you are the closest. So we'll get into some other stuff here, and then we'll just let people guess. But now you said you had a 98 convertible?
Yeah, it was a 98, all black, as they call them, the triple black. So it was a black exterior, black interior, black roof. And the running joke there is, if you know me or anybody in the local car club, that was actually surprised my wife as a gift. I had a 4x4 pickup truck that was sitting in the garage for about a year because I took a job in sales and had a company car. So the truck didn't move for probably close to a year because I had the company car and did everything in that. So I'd say, like I said, probably about after a year, I traded in the truck on a used 98, and it was right after September 11th, 2001. So it was, in October of 01, my wife graduated with her master's degree in nursing. And as a kind of like a gift for the two of us, traded in the pickup truck and got the convertible unbeknownst to her. So that was her daily driver for about a year and a half. And she loved it. I mean, she, one of her favorite stories is she would be cruising down locally here, Route 38. It's, traffic light to traffic light, like kind of like Route 130, I guess. Mm-hmm. And guy pulls up next to her in a Maxima with the fart can muffler, revving his, takes off. She just pulls away nice and slow. He floors it. Does that for like 2 traffic lights in a row. Finally, my wife's like, screw it. She punches it. Just leaves him way in the dust. Not even close. The next traffic light, the guy pulls in behind her. He wouldn't even come up next to her. So
yeah. No, I hear you on that.
She enjoyed that car, and like I said, now the joke is I traded in her car because she can't drive a stick shift. So
mm-hmm. Got it. Oh, because that was an automatic?
Correct. Yeah, the 98 was an automatic. So. Nice, easy cruising car. Convertible, put the top down.
Yep. Now, when did, now you organized the Corvette Caravan.
Yep.
How did all that go about? Like, how how did you become the guy to
Yeah.
coordinate all that?
Well, the National Corvette Museum down in Kentucky.
Yeah, I was going to say go into what the actual
Sure.
Corvette Caravan
So,
is.
if you're familiar with like the Hot Rod Power Tour, that's kind of an event that runs all over the country. It meanders from one point to another. The Corvette Caravan, the National Corvette Caravan, think of more like a bicycle spoke where everything convenes in one spot. Bowling Green being the hub or the center. And the idea is points from all across the country converge in Bowling Green over Labor Day weekend for a 3-day celebration of everything Corvette. And the reason they do it over Labor Day is that's the weekend that the museum opened back in 1994. So every 5 years, they celebrate by doing this national caravan to celebrate the milestone anniversaries of the museum. In 2019, it was the 25th anniversary of the museum. I was asked to be the national chairman to coordinate captains from all the different local areas, Pacific Northwest, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, Texas, even Canada. We had cars from Canadian cars coming down. And I coordinated all those different captains and helped them get everybody down to Kentucky. But in 2014 and 2009, I was the local guy for the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York area for this tri-state area for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. And the way it came about is I was a participant in 2003 on the caravan. My wife and I in the convertible, and a friend of mine who was a member of our local Corvette club. His name was John Jack. Had a 61 red Corvette, red with white coves, absolutely beautiful driver of a car. And he and I just got to be friends with the folks that worked at the museum. Rock Linkhoff was the events coordinator down at the museum, and Rock is from North Jersey. So I had a little bit of common ground there, got to talking to Rock about Carlisle and just all the fun things that go on in New Jersey as far as the Corvette hobby goes. So I'd say back, from that was 03, and then in 2009 was the first year John and I took this challenge on. I think it was 2007. Rock called me and goes, "Hey, we don't have anybody covering New Jersey. Would you and John take it on?" So that's basically how, got tapped on the shoulder, asked to step in, and we didn't have a clue what the hell we were doing. And we had less than 24 months to put this thing together. And we did okay. So we both volunteered, said, look, we want to come back and do it again when the next caravan rolls around, because now we know what we did wrong.
A little learning experience for sure.
Exactly. So when we did it in 2014, we had a track record down, and the 14 trip was a blast. And then I was asked to, I guess, quote unquote, take a promotion and run the event for the country in 2019. So if any,
they run that every 5 years. Every
5 years. I was going to say the next one's in 2024. Like I said, if you're doing the math, 03 doesn't match up because that wasn't 5 years from 09. 03 was done a little bit differently because that celebrated the 50th anniversary of the car.
Got it.
Of the Corvette, not necessarily of the museum. So the 03 one was off kilter a little bit from the 5-year cadence. But the next one's 2024. I've already spoken to the museum. I'm not committing to anything at this point, but the museum is discussing, what their plans are going to be. And, obviously 2020 was a year that turned everything upside down. So they're still trying to recover from that. And but if you've never been down in the museum, this is a really cool way to go because just from this area, we had 350 Corvettes.
Oh, wow.
That left from this area. And, for the folks that have never been on the trip, it's not like you have a centipede of 350 Corvettes driving in a line on the interstate. You might when you first start out for the first mile or two. But after that, everybody gets separated. This guy needs gas. This guy wants to stop and see Aunt Susie, so whatever the case may be. And it's not a cannonball run style down to the museum. We drive it over the course of 3 days. We take our time. Some guys will cannonball it, that's for sure.
Sorry, I'm looking at Jose's comment.
Yeah, and I can't see the comments. I don't know what's wrong. I can't.
He just said We should compete for best hairstyle. Who do you think would win?
Nice.
Definitely me. I just shaved this thing 20 minutes ago.
Well, you can see the turtle wax gleaming off of mine. So, yeah, this is a bummer. I can't see the chats, unfortunately. What the heck's going on?
Bottom of the screen, hit show chat.
Yep, and it's telling me YouTube refused to connect. So,
really?
Yeah. So,
okay,
cool.
Whatever.
I'll get to read them afterwards, I guess.
Okay.
So yes, but the Caravan's a great way to get down to the museum because you build camaraderie. I mean, I have like cars from all over the world. This particular little crystal thing here was given to me. It's the Corvette Club of the Netherlands.
Oh, nice.
There were 3 families that came over from the Netherlands to go on this event, and one of them had never been in the United States before, or one family. So 2 of them had never been in the U.S. before. And think back to 14. This is when the C7 first came out. So we started at Corvettes at Carlisle because, again, that's the week before Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went to they flew into Washington, D.C., and they were going to rent cars. I said, hey, can you rent, they rented SUVs and minivans. So they were our luggage, all of our crap that we couldn't fit in our Corvettes went in their cars. So they were, they helped us out a lot in that regard. But great story that came out of it. One of the gentlemen on the trip, older gentleman, had just had heart surgery. His doctor told him, look, I don't want you making this drive by yourself. I know your wife's not going with you. You can't do this. You're, 8 weeks from open heart surgery. So he called me and said, look, I got my C7. I really want to go to Kentucky. Can you help somebody, can you find somebody to go with me? So I called the 6 folks from the Netherlands. I said, look, I got this guy. He needs help. He needs a driver. Are you willing to drive his brand new Stingray on American soil? So they were over the moon excited, and they all took turns driving his car. So
nice.
And I get, they've made comments on my YouTube channel already. So we still stay in touch with my friends from the Netherlands, and one of them I'll have to link up his video. There's a YouTube video out there, and it's all in Dutch, so you can't understand a damn word other than the word Corvette when he says Corvette. He's got a display of over 9,000 models and die casts and just memorabilia that he recently opened. So I'll see if I can find a link and put that up on my channel. So he's one of the biggest, and one of the other guys that was on the trip was the editor of, you figure there's Corvette Fever and Corvette Magazine. A lot of these magazines are now, the print stuff's gone, but he was the editor of the basically Corvette magazine for the Netherlands. So he was on the trip as well. So pretty cool. The friends and people you meet on the journey. So.
Yeah. Drew just said road trip in 2024. Totally down for that, Drew.
Well, cheers to that, Drew.
Drew made it out to the takeover. He had he was a few cars down from me and Scott in the, I forget what they call that red color in the C6. It was like that maroony red. So now you but you had your 98. Yep. But what was your first car that you ever owned back
in high school? It was a 79 Monte Carlo. I'm happy to say it did have a V8 in it. It was I don't even think it was the 302. It was a real tiny V8. But wasn't fast, but it was mine. So that's all I cared about. And at the time, my father was friends with a guy that ran an audio shop in southern New Jersey, in Oak Lynn, New Jersey. And I'm like, hey, I want to put a stereo in this thing. So we got to talking, and here the owner of the stereo place would always put a high-end system in his own personal vehicle. And he would use it for demo. This is what it sounds like. Come on out, take a listen. And then he would take it out about a year later, 8 months later. Well, I ended up getting the system out of his car in my Monte Carlo. So I probably had, my Monte Carlo was worth like $500. I probably had a $5,000 stereo, Blaupunk stereo system back in the late 80s in my Monte Carlo. So you could shake the windows in that car. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, nice.
And then, over the years, I've had a couple different sports cars, kind of geared towards rear-wheel drive and and this will make you cringe or laugh, with manual transmissions. Tried to always stay with that theme. And I had a Nissan 240SX when those things first came out. If you remember the Pontiac Grand Am, the Oldsmobile version of that. It was called the Cutlass Calais or something like that. But it had the big motor at the time was called the Quad 4, and it was a high output 4-cylinder. It was like a 1.8 or 2.0 liter motor with like 200 horsepower in a little Grand Am coupe style car. You could spin the tires on that thing, because it was front wheel drive in third gear. Just pop the clutch, and the torque steer was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to think, I mentioned the pickup truck. Had a lifted pickup truck. It was a Nissan, like the knockoff of the Toyota trucks. And then from there, moved into company cars. So I for a car guy, don't get me wrong, having a company car afforded the fact that I could buy the Corvette because I didn't have a car payment.
Mm-hmm.
But it drove me crazy because the first one I had was like a Nissan Altima.
Mm-hmm.
And the big deal was when we got the clicker. Yay, we got clickers for keyless entry. That was the big deal. Everybody was excited in the company when we got, keyless entry. And then the biggest slap in the face, and I don't know, one of my old coworkers may be on here because I told them to log in. They moved me into a minivan. So my wife and I, no kids, but I got, instead of a pickup truck or SUV, we're going to put you in a minivan. So drove a minivan for 2 years. And that just killed me. And then at one point, the company said, all right, we're getting rid of company cars and we're going to go to a car allowance. And I think I was probably the only one in the company that was jumping over for joy for that because they were going to give me money to go out and, they would give me, I think it was like $600, $700 a month. And that was supposed to cover your insurance and everything else. But I'm like, shit. I can go out and get something for $900 and, I'm getting $700 to pay for, $200 car payment, baby. Look out.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first one after the car allowance hit was a Pontiac G8 GXP with the manual transmission. So it was, if you don't know the GXP, that had the LS3 motor in it. So it was the bigger of the G8s. You had the V6, then you had the GT that had the displacement on demand V8 in it. And then the GXP had the LS3 with the 430 horsepower, whatever. But it was white with red guts with a manual transmission. Bought that thing. Trying to think. I bought it from a dealer in Detroit, sight unseen. Gave him $100 on my Amex, to hold the car so that I could, then talk to him and work out a deal. Flew out to Detroit, picked it up. Stopped at my cousin's place in Pittsburgh. He drove it for a day. We went out, tooled around for a day, and then I drove it back home. And then from there, they got rid of our gas cards. They would pay for our fuel. So if I'm having to put fuel into a big thirsty V8 and driving 30,000 miles a year, I was already subsidizing that car payment. Now having to add the fuel payment to that, I got out of that thing. But sold it to a guy in New Orleans for what I paid for it. Drove it for 18 months, put 40,000 miles on it, and I sold it for what I bought it for. So that didn't hurt me.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah. So from there, I decided to go, let's do small displacement and do the hot hatch stuff for a while. So I drove a Ford Focus ST, which was a fun little pocket rocket. And then some people will laugh at the idea of this, but I had a Mini Cooper with the John Cooper Works tuning kit on the thing, and that was an absolute riot to drive. You just giggled every time you got in the car. And after that, currently I drive a 3 Series, a 340 X-Drive. So it's an 18. It's got a manual in it, and it's red with white with red guts. So sort of back to what the G8 was, same color scheme in that regard. So that's where I'm at now.
Any of those you regret getting rid of?
The Mini, I do miss the Mini Cooper, believe it or not, of all things. Now, the G8, I would absolutely love to have that thing back because those things are still holding their value. They're not quite as, big of a unicorn as, say, like a CTS-V wagon with a manual. That would be my dream right there. But those things are still selling for close to 50, 60 grand, even with high miles on them.
Yeah.
The G8 though, I wish I had that back. That was a fun car. Like I said, it was unique. You didn't see them that often.
Yeah. For some reason, well, not for some reason. I mean, we're all car guys here. I've been looking at, like a car to get that 4-seater for my family. That's fun.
Yep.
Still drive around and not be stupid. And G8 was on the list, but you're right. They hold their values still.
Yeah.
And I mean, they haven't made them in,
Oh, they've
I don't know,
been
10 years or whatever
at
it's
least
been.
that long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think mine was in 09. Or no, was it no? I don't even remember what year it was. But like I said, it was a great car. The Chevy SS is the newer version of it now.
Yep. Even
again,
those are holding their value.
Right. And they only made those for a couple of years as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, Retro Bear was saying he's picking up a C5 soon, and he has to drive from Virginia Beach back to Delaware, but he's not looking forward to gas bill. But everybody's chiming in that C5s, even though they're 17 plus years old, they get phenomenal gas mileage for.
Yeah, you can still get high 20s on those things.
Yeah,
especially if you've got, depending on which rear end you got in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good cruising car. No, so like I said, I'd love, I'm leasing the BMW right now, and the lease is up in another year. So I'd love, again, I'm in sales, but I haven't had anybody in my car in years, as far as work is concerned. So I'd love to pick up a used C7 as a daily driver next year. So I'm really hoping the C8s start to hit the dealer lots. So all these guys get rid of their C7s and flood the market and drop the prices down to the C7s.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another year away yet. So we'll see.
Gotcha.
But no, you're right. The C5 is a great, it for what it is, 350 horsepower, and to get the gas mileage out of that thing that you can get, it's unbelievable that they can do that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any young dumb stories with your car, whether it was close encounters with police or anything else that you may have?
There were a couple. I think we all do. We all have a couple of those skeletons.
Something that you can share.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations is probably expired by now.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple that were illegal, but like I said, I can neither confirm nor deny any of the stories after tonight. But I can remember I was probably 15 or 16 at the time, and hanging out with some older friends. One of them had just an economy box, maybe a Ford Escort or something, but it was a manual transmission. She's like, you ever drive stick? I'm like, no, let me try it. So here I am, like I said, 15 and a half, 16 years old, no driver's license. And we're out tooling around, driving around. Next thing you know, we come around the corner and there's a cop coming right at us. No lights on or anything, but we kind of just waved, and I quick, just darted away but at 15, 16 years old, your heart's in your throat thinking you're going to get pulled over with that. So that one kind of innocent, but there was one time I was out in Pittsburgh. I had the Monte Carlo. That's where I ended up going to school, was out in Western PA. And this was out by the airport, the old airport, if anybody's from that area. And probably tooling around doing about 80. And again, show you the age, the big block brick thing that was on my dashboard was the Escort radar detector. And it had the little amber light on it with a dial that went side to side. That thing just completely lit up. And back then, the Pennsylvania State Troopers, this was at night, and was either coming home from work or something, but he hit his brakes. And back then, the Pennsylvania State Troopers in their sedans, they had two lights on top of the roof. So you had two lights on top of when they hit their brakes. So you had two brake lights up top, the regular two down at the bottom, and then the high mount in the window. So you had this, it looked like 5 lights would come on when they hit their brakes. So I see this car go by in the other direction. He hits the brakes, and all of a sudden 5 brake lights go on. I'm like, oh crap, that's a cop. So he had to go down to a turnaround, probably about another quarter mile. I'm like, well, I can either wait for him or I can hammer it. So hammer down and go. And like I said, it was probably about 1 a.m, so not a lot of traffic out there. Jumped off at the next exit, killed the lights, and I knew my way home. And put it in the driveway before I ever saw him put his lights on. So, yeah, like I said, nowadays, you can't outrun the radio. So, just got to be careful with what you're doing with shit like that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Besides cars, what other hobbies do you have?
I'd say, I got a 12-year-old daughter and my wife. So, I mean, obviously family's real big. My daughter's birthday is Saturday, so we're coordinating doing a parade for her, trying to see if she's within earshot. But we've got probably about a dozen Corvettes planning to drive by the house on Saturday, taking care of her, just to have fun with that. But during this pandemic, something that
when are you doing the drive-by? Saturday
morning, yeah, around 11. I'll shoot you an email if you want to come
in. Yeah, shoot me an email. I have the seats in my car.
Okay, you drive your car now. So.
Yeah, I'm looking for an excuse to get out. So
all right, yeah, I'll send you the address and everything. But yeah, I'll collect. I do some goofy things with the museum. One of the videos up there is collecting Hot Wheels. I'll look for just Corvettes. But then I have a collection of my own. But then I also send a bunch down to the museum. Something that I've gotten into, I probably started this last year with the pandemic. Again, nothing going on in the evenings at home, so either sit there, watch TV, or watch YouTube. I started messing around with Legos and some of the different cars that are associated with the Legos. If you can see it over my shoulder, or this shoulder here, you can see a bunch of the Corvette Legos, which way I got to lean, on a car carrier. So it's just something fun to do and keeps your mind sharp, and it is car related. So mess around with the Legos and so forth. And then like I said, just being a dad and being a homeowner. That's really about it. Our local Corvette club, it's called the Original Garden State Corvette Club, and they meet down in the Deptford area. We're always, when the weather's nice, we're always doing something, whether it's a club meeting or cruise night, car show, or some sort of a fundraiser to help out in the community. So we're always trying to do something in that regard as well.
How long have you been in the Original Garden State?
Since we got our car in late 2001, we probably joined in, the end of the 2001 or early 2002. Okay. So almost, pushing 20 years at this point. And then the big addiction that we have, I'm kind of vicariously making up for it. As a kid, never went to Disney. My first trip to Disney was my daughter's first trip to Disney.
Okay.
So, and we probably went down, she's 12, probably went down when she was about 5 or 6 years old. And we've tried to go down at least, try to get down once a year, every year since then. So we try and make an annual trip down. So you got Mickey Mouse there behind me here. Let's see, where's he at? So you got Mickey. That's my birthday card. So
there you go.
The family knows we love everything Disney. So and with the pandemic and everything else, trying to keep her entertained, Disney Plus has been a lifesaver because I think we've watched every Avengers movie in order multiple times. So just having fun with that. So that's like I said, and I love collecting, I don't say knickknacks, but all kinds of different memorabilia and stuff. That's what's been fun about the Corvette hobby. I got the racing shirt on. Big race this weekend. If you follow IMSA Racing, it's the 24 hours at Daytona this weekend. So the C8R is one. I believe they won the pole position for that race. It's on Saturday. Okay. 24-hour race. I got some friends in the Corvette club. So I joke. I said, it's funny. You got the two different genres of car clubs. You got the BMW guys and you got the Corvette guys. And if any of my club members are on here, I apologize. But, when you hang out with the Corvette club guys, I feel young. I'm in my early 50s. I'm 50. So, average age is much higher than me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go out to the BMW meets, it's a 3 Series. It's an 18. So it's a couple years old.
And you're one of the older guys.
I'm one of the older guys. I'm like, I'm gonna hang out with the Corvette guys.
Yeah.
But no, and what's great is the C5 is making a resurgence, and that's getting into the second,
Mhm.
third owner, and it's getting the younger group guys into the car, which is awesome because that's partly one of the videos if you watch on Zipity's Garage is about bringing the next generation into the car hobby. And what the museum does is whenever they have a class trip come through on a tour of the museum, they give every kid a Hot Wheels Corvette to take home with them. And
Mhm.
the museum doesn't buy those. Those are done through donations. So, in fact, just today, my daughter and I went over to FedEx and I dropped off a package of 100 Hot Wheels Corvettes. They're all sorted different models and so forth. But that's what the museum will give to the kids after they finish the tour of the museum. And, if that sparks the passion or sparks the interest in the car, then that's going to bring that next generation along. So that's something that's important to me. So I try and get behind that. SEMA's got a great thing. It says, take a kid to a car show, and it's just that. It's a marketing program trying to get, that next generation out. So I don't care if you got, because hot rodding is just, back in the 50s and 60s, you were hot rodding mom and dad's Impala. Well, now the kids are hot rodding mom and dad's Honda Accord or Civic. So it's still hot rodding in one way or another, but, as long as they're getting into the car hobby, that's what you got to do. Move them along to the next one, the next generation. So
I think the guesses are pretty much over.
Okay.
For your production number.
What are you seeing?
And your production number was 1291. So I think from now on, I got to tell Ray at Project Dirty that he is no longer allowed. He's not allowed to participate in any of these giveaways because I think he's won every single one now.
Nice.
His guess was 1108. He was the closest to 1291. So Ray, shoot me an email over at YellowVetYT. YT's for YouTube. So YellowVet04YT@gmail.com, or just shoot me a message on Instagram and just give me your address and I'll send you over a t-shirt. But
congratulations. Very nice.
There was a question I was going to ask you and I forget. I lost my train of thought. Oh, since Retro Bear is kind of getting his feet wet into C5s here, you've owned your Z since new.
Right.
Do you have any advice for a first-time C5 buyer?
Go with what, obviously, get the newest version you can. 03, 04s, those are the newest ones. Those are the youngest of the C5s. Try and stay away from, trying to think, it's 97, I think, to 99 had the biggest issues. And that was with the electronic control body module, I think is what it was. But if you go into, and the motors were pretty much the same. The LS1 carried through the entire model year as well, or the generation, I should say. So it's not like the C6 where they changed motors or upgraded motors halfway through. So my recommendation would be just go with the, newest model that you can find, depending on what your use is going to be. If miles or condition, if you're going to beat the snot out of the thing, don't worry about the miles. If you're going to look to hold on to it for a while, see what you can do. Find about, lower mileage. The later model years, like I said, I'd say 03 and 04, a lot of the equipment that was optional early on in the generation became standard later on. So a lot of the equipment, whether it be, dual air conditioning, dual zone heating and stuff like that with the upgraded HVAC, that became standard later on. Trying to think some of the goofy options. Like if you get an automatic, they've got two different rear ends in the automatics.
Yes.
So you want to try and get the 315 rear end. That's got a little bit more oomph as opposed to the 273 rear.
You were talking about horsepower obsessed. I was talking with him earlier today because he just picked up a C5 automatic.
Okay.
And I was asking him which rear end he had, and I told him how to check. You look at the RPO codes. I mean, if you don't want to get underneath the car and actually look at the diff, you look at the RPO code in your glove box, and it'll be code G92. Lets you know that you have a 315 rear end.
Yep. Yeah. And I got lucky with the 98 because I didn't know a damn thing about the car. And it had a 315 in it, and it had the better HVAC, and It had sports seats. Again, these are other goofy things that will happen. I think the seats were an option at some point. It's not like it is today where it's a 2LT or 3LT. I think they were called like 1SC and things of that nature.
Yeah, there was something like that. 1SC, 1SB, something like that.
Yeah, and one of the videos I'm planning on doing is actually going through not the owner's manual, but the sales guide of the C5. Kind of break down the option codes and so forth on what those packages were for a lot of guys that might be looking at these things. Because, like I said, they all included different things, and one of the big ones could have been the sports seats. Not that the sports seats were that much of an upgrade over the standard seat. I think they looked better. The funny thing was the Z06 was, quote unquote, the top of the totem pole of the Corvette hierarchy, yet it came with the standard seats, which were I guess they were maybe a pound or two lighter, and that's the reason they went into the Z06, and probably less as well.
Yeah, probably because they didn't have the electric passenger seat, which probably saved 4 or 5 pounds, whatever it is.
Right, exactly, and that's one of the things I'm dealing with now. I'm in the midst of upgrading my entire interior. I'm on Corvette forum under Zipity, and they're starting to put the guy that's doing a lot of the work for me starting to post some of the pictures of the product coming in. But I have Vet Essentials was like the #1 leather guy in the C5 world. And the owner of that company passed away, and his son sold the business, so they're no longer doing stuff. But they would do beautiful leather seat covers, and I upgraded my standard seats to sports seats with Vet Essential covers that were done up in two-tone black and blue for the commemorative edition Z that I have. And now I want to upgrade those. And to your point, the Z06 doesn't have any power over on the passenger side. So the seats that I've gotten, I'll step out of frame here and you can see them right behind me. They're C7 competition seats, and I had the blue Alcantara added in the center, and obviously got them off of a C7 owner. But now I've got to figure out, there's power on the passenger side. I just got to get it routed and plugged into the seat. So that's kind of what I'm holding up on. Is I've talked with a vendor. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but I've talked to him a while now, and I'm waiting for those connections to come in, and haven't gotten them yet. So that's basically what I'm holding up, waiting for to make the transition on my seats. I know that's something you just went through as well.
Yeah. It was more of just making the brackets work for me.
Right.
But yeah. Again, to any new C5 owners, have you had any of the typical C5 gremlins bite you, or anything to look out for?
The harmonic balancer is the only gremlin that that's typical of C5s that kind of, I won't say caught me, but that I had issues with was the harmonic balancer up on the front. It'll start to wobble a little bit, and I just had that upgraded and replaced, and that was really the only knock on wood issue that I've ever really had with the car. Now, like I said, I've done the motor's no longer an LS6 at this point. Complete Street's done so much to work to that thing that I would, it's not even considered an LS6 at this point. But, as far as maintenance and so forth, oil change and all the normal stuff that you're going to, the consumables, your brakes and your tires and so forth. And I won't say I beat my car, but I mean,
you take it to the track though.
I would take it. I'd do 6-7 track days, 6-7 track events, which is anywhere from 2 to 3 days at each event in a given year. So I think that's partly, I won't say I over maintenance the thing, but I'm changing the oil more than once a year because of all the track use and so forth on it. So I've been fortunate in that regard that the car hasn't been down mechanically for any extended period of time. And like I said, that harmonic balancer was more of just preventative maintenance because we saw it starting to go. So that's how we ended up with moving into that. So I think it's a reliable car. I mean, I don't know what
it really. I mean, I got my car. I'm new into the whole Corvette game, but I got mine 5 years ago, And besides, like you just said, besides, I probably didn't need to do anything to my car except oil changes.
Right.
Of course, I've done a lot more than that.
Yep.
I did
Sure.
a video on the thousands of dollars I've spent on this car, but like that was all my choice, not because I had to do it. It's just, you're right. The car is just reliable.
Yeah. And I mean, there, friend of mine. Again, this is what's really cool. You know, if you're new to the Corvette world, get out to Carlisle in August. Corvettes at Carlisle. It's the biggest Corvette show in the world, and it's 3 days of, you know, eat, sleep, and drink the Corvette. Whether it's from '53 or 2021, they've got something for everybody. And one of the guys that's out there, I forget his first name, but he's got a car and it's always parked by the front main entrance. It's called Corvettes Conquer Cancer, and it's CCC is what it says on his car. And his wife passed away probably 20 years ago from breast cancer, and he's retired. He's taken it on his personal mission to drive around in his red Corvette and drum up money and for breast cancer research. And the car looks like a race car because it's got every square inch of the thing. He's got sponsors on it, and they pay for it. They pay for the advertising on his car. And he had a C6. He had a C5, and bone stock. Normal maintenance, tires, brakes, had over 300,000 miles on the motor.
Wow.
He replaced the transmission once. Now he's into a C6, and like Michelin's one of his sponsors. Michelin gives him tires because he just runs this car coast to coast. A really, really nice guy, and I can picture his face. I just can't remember his name. But again, it just speaks to the longevity of I joked. I said, "Don't you want to change the exhaust?" He goes, "I'm not changing anything. He doesn't want any chances of something going wrong." I said, "All right."
Yeah. Jerry Rice had a question. I don't think this is the actual Jerry Rice from the San Francisco 49ers or anything, but do you have 18 by 10.5 wheels in the front? I guess you can talk a little bit about your wheel setup, your street setup, as well as your track setup.
Yep. So no is the short answer. I have 9.5s up front. I have the factory. My Z, the 04 Commemorative came with the polished wheel. It was the only year that the polished wheel was available for the C5 and the Z06 pattern. And that's a 1-year wheel option. So part of me is, I don't want to say is a purist, but it kind of goes with the car. So I've never changed the wheels on the car. So my track setup, I actually have and they're also the lightest. So from an unsprung weight standpoint, I have an extra set of the model code for my car is a Z16. So the Z16 wheel, I have an extra set of front and rears. So they were 9.5 up front by 17, 10.5 by 18 in the rear. And so that's what I run at the track as well as on the street. Now, that said, I do run a bigger tire for the track. I think the factory is like 275s up front. I run a 295 17 because the 75s are harder to find now. I think Goodyear stopped making them. I've had Michelin's on the car for probably the last 2 sets of tires at least. And then in the rear, and I don't run Michelin's on the track. I run a Nitto NT01.
Okay.
It's almost like an R compound. And the street version of that would be the NT05, which is a little bit of a bead, not much for water drainage. But I run a 305, I think it is, on the back for that, and that's a big tire. And it's fun because I also have a trailer hitch on my Corvette. So
I did see a picture. I forget if it was on your Instagram, Facebook, but you had your track set up on a little trailer behind you.
Yep. So it's a trailer that I started at one point, but now it houses all 4, wheels and tires mounted, and then it's got a lock on it so that I can transport it. It's secured overnight and so forth. And then it's got a job box that's tied down to it as well, bolted onto it. And of course, it's painted Le Mans blue to match my car. And but when I get to the track, I'll swap out the wheels and tires. And depending on what we're doing with hotel and sleeping arrangements, sometimes I'll drive the Z06 back to the hotel. that's a blast driving on the street with those MT-01s. You hear everything kicking up, and talk about road noise. Just doing 50 miles an hour on the thing, it sounds like it's screaming at you. So more times than not, if I'm up there with a couple buddies, I'll leave the Z06 at the track, lock it up, and drive back to the hotel in somebody's car.
Mm-hmm.
They can get a little squirrely, especially if it's wet out. So
yeah, I know Alberto Martinez. He just followed up with a question. How well does a C5 withstand aggressive driving? We kind of just went over that. Speaking from a 19-year-old who plans on getting one, but also has plenty of experience working on cars. We kind of just went over a lot of that. Jeff tracks his car, hasn't had any issue with it. I've had my car for 5 years, haven't had a single issue with it. Granted, I don't drive it all that aggressively, but I have put 22,000 miles on it in 5 years, and I haven't had a single issue. Project Dirty, he just mentioned that he has his car over 80% throttle more times than not, and his car's been fine. He's actually Project Dirty. He's a YouTube guy. He's building his for drag strip, so that's going to be a fun build for him.
Yeah, I mean, a drag car, that I don't want to say it abuses the car more, but that's harder on the car than a road, because drag strip is all about weight transfer that moves violently. When you get on that throttle, everything's moving to the back. When you're on a road course, the idea is to be smooth. So yes, you're going to be hitting the brakes hard, but from a drivetrain component standpoint, drag racing is much more violent to the vehicle than road racing is. And if it can withstand, a drag car, my God, that, like I said, that's why these things are so good at the drag strip. Many multiple
ways you can take this car, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. So and like I said, it's afforded me meeting a whole bunch of unique people. Where I was going with the Corvettes at Carlisle, and even backwards here, Corvette racing. If you get a chance, if IMSA or if there's going to be a race where they're allowing fans to attend, like this weekend they're down at Daytona. Like I said, I've got some friends that are down there now. Do yourself a favor, go to one of the races and sign up for the Corvette Corral. It's a blast because it's all Corvette parking, Corvette only, I should say. And with that, you get a lunch ticket, for hospitality. You get to meet the drivers, autographs, and everything else. And no other car, whether, it be, anything from Porsche, anything from BMW, do you get to interact with the engineers of the car on a regular basis. Over my shoulder here, this photograph right there, that's Dave Hill. Dave Hill was the same job that Zora Arcus Duntov was. But Dave was in charge of the C5. I've got Dave's business card sitting here on my desk. I've met Dave a number of different times. He's autographed that, and it says to Jeff, so he knows who I am. And that, again, you can't get that from any other car. Like I said, I've got the BMW, I've got the Mini, I've been to a bunch of their different events, and it's so much more sterile, I think is the right word, than what you see at a Corvette event. And it's so engaging when you're out with the engineers, the guys that design the cars, the race car drivers. It's in that, you go up to them and talk to them at Carlisle. And, standing there at Carlisle, the C7 Z06, one of, all the overheating issues that thing had when it first came out. I'm standing there listening to the engineers talk to some of the owners who are ripping the engineers a new one because of these things overheating. And the engineers, okay, yeah, we're going to fix it. They listened to the ownership base and, made changes and adjusted it. That's what's so stinking cool about this car is that it, it's one thing to have the community, whether it be on YouTube and social media and so forth. But then when you get out to these different events, my God, the accessibility of the people that either sell the car, market the car, build the car, engineer the car, or race the car, you can talk to these people, which is great. I've got multiple photographs of me not sitting in, but standing in the doorwell of the C6R race car. I went up to Watkins Glen. I think it was. We went up to Watkins or Lime Rock. Went up to Lime Rock, and we got in behind the pits. And they're like, "Yeah, come on in, take some photographs." So there I am standing. Like I said, look like I'm climbing in the car, the C6R. Sitting in the Corvette race pit. So I mean, it's just so stinking cool that these guys will talk to you and engage with you that way. It's so stinking fun. I love it.
Now, besides like Carlisle or any of the other races, like you're mentioning Daytona, are there any other events that you would recommend Corvette enthusiasts go to? Like the Takeover or something like that?
Yeah, Corvette Takeover. Gotta hit that. The Takeover, what's this going to be, 3 or 4? Because you did two.
We did 2 in 2019, which were we had like 35 at our first one, and like 70 at our second one, and then we did 2 in 2020, which was.
That's right. I didn't go to the first one in 2020. I went to the second one. I couldn't.
Yeah, and then we had 150 and 180.
Yeah, so and what's cool about the Takeover is there's no BS. There's no it's not $20 to get in. You're not worrying about shining. You're going to clean your car because you want it to look good. But I don't get me wrong. I host 3 car shows a year with our Corvette Club, and I love every one of them. But man, it is a pain in the neck trying to judge 200 Corvettes.
That's the one thing that if Scott's still on here, he was on here a minute ago. Is me and Scott did not want to do that because we don't want. We understand how much pride and time goes into these cars.
Yep.
And we don't want to piss anybody off.
Well,
we just want to have a good time. We can all get here and have a good time.
Trophy. And then the other 10 guys in class are all going to be bent out of shape. And that there's I forget the verbiage on our website, but if you go to ogscc.com, so it's Original Garden State Corvette Club.com, there's a little verbiage at the top. It's not about the cars, it's about the people. And you got to say an oath, yes, I'm a car owner, yes, I realize my car is the nicest one in the world, but if I don't go home with a trophy, I'm not going to act like a 2-year-old type of thing, because sometimes that happens. But that's what's cool about the Takeover and some of the the Cars and Coffee that have popped up now, because again, it's so much more low key. You come and go as you want. Some of them have a charity component tied to it. They're just a lot of fun. But you mentioned what other big events. If you're on the East Coast, there's a big one down in Ocean City, Maryland, that they do every year. Corvette Weekend, big down there. Ocean City, New Jersey does a big car show in October where you get your car up on the boardwalk. Personally, I've done it once or twice, and I've had my fill of it because we were just talking. You don't want to be at a car show for 6 hours. 6 hours, that's easy, because at Ocean City, no disrespect to the Ocean City event at all. It's just a long day. You just got to know what you're doing, because you're meeting at they stage at the Ocean City Airport. This is Ocean City, New Jersey. They stage at the airport by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's so large now, you have to pre-register because you can't just show up and register. And I think they cap it at 450 cars. So you're getting to the airport at 8 o'clock. They don't take you up onto the boardwalks till about 10:30. So, there's 2.5, 3 hours there that you're staged at the airport, and everybody's having fun. It's a Corvette show. You're walking around looking at everybody's car, BSing, and it's on an airport runway, for lack of a better description, parking lot. So everybody's fine, nice and easy to walk around it's in a square, so to speak, because everybody's together. Then they put you up on the boardwalk and you go 2 by 2. It is cool driving down the boardwalk, following another Corvette in front of you and behind you and alongside you, everybody looking at you. So that is pretty darn cool. You park your car and you're there till 4 o'clock because you're locked in. You can't go anywhere. Depending on, like I said, the car show and where it's located, what you got to watch for is, the people that aren't car people. Especially, there, somebody's coming off the beach with their beach umbrella and their beach chair. Oh, let me look at this car. And next they turn around, and next thing you know, the chair is putting a line right down your car, the paint coming off the paint side of your car. But like I said, it's a cool event nonetheless. You got to do it once or twice. I've done it a couple times. One of my horror stories from there is at the hotel the night before my car got backed into, and the person left. So, and luckily there was security cameras in the parking lot. We were able to track down the person that did it, and completely had to replace the entire rear end of my car and the rear quarter panel, because right where the two body panels is where she hit it, and all she did was back up into it. And then another year, I was out handing out flyers for the Caravan or promoting something, and a seagull crapped on my car. Well, it's hot, sunny day. It's just baked on my dark blue paint. And I looked at everybody that was parked next to me, like, you sons of bitches couldn't, how many of you guys got rags in your car and detail spray? You couldn't come over and wipe it off, or at least throw your towel over it so it didn't bake on the car. I probably spent about 2.5 hours with a portal cable getting the stain off of the car when I got back to the house.
Oh, wow.
So, but another, my shows, the ones that I promote, I got to make sure I mention those. In Cherry Hill, we do 2 of them. On Memorial Day, that morning, on Monday, we do the Memorial Day breakfast show at the Silver Diner, right across the street from the Cherry Hill Mall. And that benefits a lot of military charities. And that show starts at 8, and we're out by noon. So again, it's one of these shows that we call it a breakfast show because we don't want to be there all day. And if you've got a barbecue to go to for Memorial Day, you can still do it. And then we do one in September. It's the 3rd or 2nd Saturday. I got the dates here. September 19th. It's an all General Motors show. The Silver Diner show, Memorial Day, is anything on wheels. Foreign, domestic, you name it. Then we do an all General Motors show at Mall Chevrolet in Cherry Hill. And then 3rd Sunday in October, we do an all Corvette show down in Smithville Village outside of Atlantic City. So we got something for everything. All Corvettes, all General Motors, and then anything on wheels. And then
that Smithville show was a great time.
Yeah, in 2020, we weren't sure what was going to happen with different, COVID and this and that, but we did it smart. We had plexiglass up, things of that nature at registration, tried to stay away from each other. But it just goes to show people were looking for something to do. We had over 250 cars there, all Corvettes, not just cars, 250 vets. And, you've got a video up on it about it, doing some drone footage from it. We filled every parking spot we could at that event. And then I don't have any connection with these guys at all, but it just happens that something big that's happening out in Pittsburgh this year, sort of like the out west in California, the Amelia Island and the different shows and things of that nature that they do. That's like a week long that you see, Jay Leno and all those guys attending. There's something in Pittsburgh. It's called the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix, and it's a week long event in July. And it just so happens that for 2020, the specialty marquee or the feature marquee for that event was going to be the Corvette because of the introduction of the C8. Well, they didn't host the event in 2020. So 2021, the marquee vehicle is going to be the Corvette. So that's the 3rd week of July. I've already got my hotel reservations to head out there because, like I said, my cousin, his YouTube channel, he's from Pittsburgh. You'd mentioned Horsepower Obsessed. He's from that area. So I think a lot of it's going to be interesting to see how, because they're set up on golf courses, and then they actually run vintage race cars through one of the parks in Pittsburgh, Shillelagh Park, I think it's called. And so it's sort of like, imagine old vintage race cars running through Central Park in New York City. That's basically what these guys do.
Oh, cool.
So that's a big event to maybe put on your calendar for this year.
Drew had a decent comment here, and maybe there is one. Is there like a central Corvette calendar online of like all the Corvette shows and locations? Do you know it? Or no? Like, does someone put that together?
I don't know. I'm trying. I'm on Corvette Forum quite a bit, and those have under events on the Corvette Forum. There is a national page, so you could look there. I'm certain. If somebody's got an event, they will certainly put it up there. Because you've got it's held out in Indianapolis. Not Bloomberg. What am I thinking of? There's a big show out in the Midwest. It's held out in Indianapolis every year. There's Corvette in the Rockies, again, another big national show. Nashville does a huge show every year. And when I was doing the caravan stuff, like I said, dealing with guys from all over the country, they were telling me about their big, the big regional shows for the Southeast, for Texas and things of that nature. When Circuit of Americas, the new racetrack down in Texas, Sean Jones is his name. Big Corvette guy, but he was one of my captains on the Caravan. He coordinates all the Corvette events that are happening at the Circuit of America down in Texas. So again, they do a big Corvette show down there. I think it's called the Corvette Invasion, where they take over the racetrack for a weekend. Corvette in the Rockies is another big one. I mentioned the Caravan earlier, and guys from all over creation coming to this thing. There was actually a Corvette club from Hawaii that came on the trip and drove their Corvettes. They put their Corvettes on a boat and shipped them in the LA harbor. Then they flew into Los Angeles and drove with the Southern California Caravan down to Kentucky. That just speaks to the passion that a lot of these guys have with this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Project 30 has a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any next mods planned for the drivetrain? Or I guess we can start there, but just throw it out to any mods planned.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm done, because you're never any car owner is never really done. I think the only thing drivetrain wise that I don't want to say I have left to do would probably be a supercharger or a turbo setup. And when I was working on the motor mods and so forth, made sure I put in a big enough clutch that could handle any additional horsepower. So right now, the modifications that I've got planned is kind of gutting the interior, and I'm doing a blue Alcantara with leather and carbon fiber everywhere. I've got a carbon fiber addiction, so I've got and that's what. So that's the big plan for the winter or the downtime now, is I'm assembling the parts and kind of waiting for everything to get here before I can get everything installed. So not a lot on the drivetrain, because I've done the brakes, I've done the suspension. It's got LG coilovers on it. The brakes have got Willwoods on them, front all four corners. Even the Willwood setup, that was a little bit more of a custom setup, because the off-the-shelf one for the Corvette, we ended up getting a bigger caliper that was able to fit. I forget, something wasn't. We upgraded something, whether it was the caliper or the rotor size, than from the standard C5 setup. And so it's got Willwoods around all four corners. They said the motor's been done. Exhaust is 3-inch headers all the way through a 3-inch catback, high flow cats, and then LG Motorsports exhaust on the thing. So from a drivetrain standpoint, I think I'm pretty good there. And like I said, the reason I'm mixing up the color on the interior is the 98 we had was all black as well. So figure since 2001, I've had nothing but a black interior. And anybody that's in a C5, if you've got a black interior, everything is black. There's no color, inside that car. So that's really what the modifications are focusing on right now.
Joe has a question. Ask about the Corvette racing year-end review at the Car Museum in Hershey. Doug Freehan and Tom Milner usually show up.
Yeah, funny you should mention that. I've been to every one that they've had there. The last year's was canceled. And that, again, a great event. They used to host it here in Philadelphia. I'm local to Philly. They would hold it at the there's a museum, Fred Simeone Museum down by the airport. And if you're in Philadelphia, this is one of the top museums in the country. Simeone, Simone. And it's owned by a heart doctor, Fred Simeone. And they used to hold that event here, and then they moved it out to Hershey, because again, Hershey's, I think, a little bit more easier to get to, and the Simeone Museum's not in the greatest area down by the airport in Philly. But no, you're absolutely right. The Corvette racing event at Hershey is an unbelievable event, because Tommy Milner is still a current driver. Doug Feehan just recently retired or was, shuffled out, but he's no longer the team manager. But if you ever get a chance to hear Doug Feehan speak, go. He is, a cross between Johnny Carson and Jay Leno, and he's just got gasoline running through his veins, and he is a character, and he can command a room with the best of them. He's got some unbelievable stories about his, close to 40 years in motorsports. And I've had the pleasure of meeting both of those guys. Got a couple autograph pieces from both of them out in my garage. And what's cool about that event is when you go out Friday, and if you can take the day off on Friday, get out there early, because they'll go on either on a poker run, or this last time, I think last year they drove up to the Yingling Brewery up in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. So a couple hours from Hershey, came back, had dinner at a microbrewery in Hershey. You spend the night right there. There's a hotel in the same parking lot as the museum. And the next day, they're talking all the fun and games of all the things that they're doing in the Corvette racing world. And Tommy and Doug will, like I said, they'll make you feel like you've known them for years. They're just great guys. So, yeah, that's a great event. That's usually held, I want to say September, October, somewhere in that time frame in the fall. And anybody's close to Bowling Green, Kentucky, they call it the Birthday Bash. Now they just call it the Michelin Bash. That's held the third weekend in April down in Bowling Green in Kentucky. I'm depending on what's going on with COVID and everything else, I'm going to try and make it down to that as well. The cool thing about that is, if you're not familiar with the museum, it's right across from the GM assembly plant where they build the Corvettes. And under normal circumstances, it was like $10. You could go take a guided tour of the assembly plant. They haven't done that now probably for about 2 years because of the transition to the C8 and now with COVID. But I know they're planning on bringing the tours back.
Nice.
And then across the street from that is the new racetrack. It's a Corvette Museum racetrack. And that, if you look at the introduction on any of my videos or the more current videos, the last 2 uploads, I have a 30-second sort of introduction. And there's a picture of me probably 4 feet away from a C7R going full throttle down the straightaway at the museum racetrack. That's where that video was taken. And it's such a cool place because you've got the racetrack, the museum itself, and then the assembly plant. And like you said, the Bash is something that they hold every April. And then they're doing some event at least once a month. If you're down in that area, they'll have a C5, C6 gathering. They do a veterans gathering. So they have a lot of different genres in the Corvette world. They'll get everybody down to the museum for some sort of celebration. So
yeah, I was going to ask you if they're planning anything for this year, because it would be the 25th anniversary of the first produced C5.
Oh, that's a good point.
Would be the end of this year.
Right.
From my Google searches, I believe it's October 1st.
Okay, which makes sense because that's about when the model year transition happens. I haven't heard anything because, again, nobody knows what's going on with what's going to be virtual, what's going to be in person.
Yeah. Yep.
It's such a mess. So hopefully we get back to a point where we can get out and enjoy each other's company live and in person.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a fun hobby, and you can see from behind me, I got so many damn trinkets over the years. There's one photograph. That was a collection from that was 2014 Caravan. It was the largest gathering of the Z06s, the Z16, the commemorative editions. I think there was 30 of us. We lined up in the assembly plant, all put our hoods up so the fancy little stripes were on display, and took a photograph. So that was a pretty cool event. Again, the little niches inside the Corvette world. There's so many different things, that you can get involved in. So again, a lot of fun.
Anything in the future that we can look forward to on the channel?
Yeah, the most you were busting my chops about it earlier, and so was my cousin. I think the most recent upload, last I checked, it's been up for like 3-4 days, and it's got 13,000 views or
Yeah.
something like that.
I'm like, how does Jeff have more views on one video than I do in a week? Like, what is this?
Uh, and I kind of, I don't want to say stepped into it, but I'm friends with a lot of the guys down at Kerbeck. And
Okay.
that's where I bought my car. I helped them a lot with their Toys for Tots event. Talk about another great event that you've got to do. That's usually Columbus Day weekend, the Saturday of Columbus Day weekend. And it used to, what it started as, the first year there was maybe 30 or 40 cars, and everybody fit inside the showroom for a Toys for Tots run. They meet at Farley Rest Plaza on the Atlantic City Expressway and then head down to Bader Field, which is across the street from the dealership. And in the in-between years, you mentioned Cannonball Run earlier. It was a flat-out Cannonball Run because the state police would close the interstate, close the expressway. They wouldn't let anybody on. They would stop traffic at Farley, and people were just hauling ass down the expressway to the point where some people were even turning around in the median, going back to the rest stop, and turning around and doing it again.
Wow.
And what really got that thing shut down were the toll collectors, because people were flying through the toll booths at 60 miles an hour. That's a little bit unsafe.
Yeah.
But now what they do, state police are involved. They still lead us down in a big parade. We have the 2 left lanes are shut down, and we're, get down as fast as you can. But there could be anywhere from 300 to 1,000 Corvettes that show up at this, depending on the weather. So that's a great event to go to. And they've done it now 16 years, and I've been to all 16 of them.
Nice.
So it's a good time. But you mentioned about videos and so forth. This video that I took this past Saturday, went down and just said, hey, can I walk around and shoot some video of the inventory you've got in the building? And I think I struck a chord because, a lot of these guys that are looking at ordering C8s or might have something on order, and while they're waiting, went through and just did a video of what Kerbeck has between their 2 showrooms. And, Scott and a couple other people mentioned it looks like a bag of Skittles because you've got so many different colors and stripes. And
pretty much almost every variety was there.
Yeah. They were missing one color, and that's the silver flare. And they said that was due to deliver late this week. They had a couple trucks of those arriving. And I'll probably continue to do that. I'll probably go down maybe every 2 weeks, every other week, go down and just shoot what's there. Now, all of the cars are sold. They're customer-ordered cars. They're just waiting to be picked up or waiting to be shipped out. So I'll continue to do that because I've gotten a lot of folks, whether it's on the C8 Corvette forum or a friend of mine runs there's another big forum out there. It's called Mid-Engine Corvette Forum. And that's obviously generated for the C8 owners. But Mid-Engine Corvette Forum, the video was put up there. And I think that's where I'm getting a lot of traffic from. A lot of guys, trying to just see what's out there. And the guys at Kerbeck are telling me that it's probably another, they're saying on the high end, 12 to 14 months if you were to give them a deposit now before you would see your car.
Oh, wow.
Between, trying to get, production and COVID delays and everything else done, it's going to be a while before you see a car. But, so I'll continue to do that. I've got, one of the other videos I'm going to try and do is, this weekend, I'll probably take some video of the birthday parade. That'll be fun. But
hopefully I can make it over to that.
Yeah. And I generally go to a Cars and Coffee on Saturdays if it's dry, and I'll do a quick walk through there. There was a McLaren Senna showed up a couple weeks ago. So I mean, it's $1 million car. So it's cool seeing some of that stuff. One of the videos I want to do is I sort of want to highlight, again, I've got a lot of stuff done to my car, so it's not like I can do a lot of how-to stuff. Once I start tearing apart the interior, yes, I'll video a lot of that stuff. But I'll, kind of showcase some of the lifestyle stuff. And, like you can see the mirror display up behind me here. These are all different versions of my Z06, the blue Le Mans one with the stripes. I'm figuring I'll do a fun little video of all the different sizes from a matchbox scale up to a 1-to-1 scale, which is my car. Do something there. I got all those Corvette Legos behind me. One of the things I want to do, see what kind of cool memorabilia people have got in their collection. Like this is something, again, goofy.
I like the color.
What exactly? I'm sure you would. This was, I've had this now for 2 years, and it's from a C8. Okay, so this is a brake caliper off of a C8, and what it says in there,
Huge, by the
2020
way.
Stingray, it says failed color shade. So they were testing out the Accelerate Yellow caliper paint, and then failed the color test. So they were auctioning car parts off at at a charity dinner I was at in Carlisle. So I bid on. It cost me like $100. The thing weighs 30 pounds, but it's autographed by all the Corvette engineers. Harlan Charles is on here. Tad Junkter's on here. Kai Spade. Kai Spade is the one he's the manages the Corvette assembly plant. And I got a buddy who's into welding and powder coating. He's going to turn this thing into a lamp for me. We're going to put some LEDs in it, and so it'll be a cool little desk lamp. So I'll do some videos on some cool little trinkets and what kind of cool collectibles do you have in laying around the house, so stuff like that. I'm also on the board of the Chip Miller Foundation. If you go to chipmiller.org, this is foundation that's going after research and trying to eradicate a rare blood disease called amyloidosis. And if you're familiar with Carlisle events, Lance Miller is the son of Chip Miller. Mm-hmm. Chip Miller passed away in 2004 from amyloidosis. Lance asked me to be on the board to help raise funds and awareness for his organization. And I guess it's been about a year now that I've been on that board. And again, just trying to get the word out on this event. And that isn't always geared towards car stuff. Lance grew up, in Ocean City, New Jersey. So he's a surfer and a fisher at heart. So, they do a surf fest. They do a skate park, skateboarding with kids. And they a couple of different, 5K runs and things of that nature. But then they also do an awesome, and if you're looking for a really cool way to help out a charity and maybe even win a C8 Corvette, go over to chipmiller.org. They're giving away, it's one of, I think they're making 60 of them. It's a white C8 Corvette that's done up in the racing livery of the 1960 Corvette that won the 24-hour Le Mans back in 1960, referred to as the Cunningham Corvette. And the Miller family owns that restored version of that 1960 Corvette. It's the first Corvette to win its class at Le Mans. And the C8 is going to be painted up in the same livery as that 1961. And they're selling raffle tickets to win that car. They'll be given away here at the end of August. So,
nice.
Just trying to, again, there's a lot less fortunate in the world. And, I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where, I can have fun in this hobby and, just want to make sure we give back to those in the community that we can. And like I said, bring that next generation along. So that's partly why I started the channel, just to kind of have an outlet to, show off the fun and games. And that's kind of what I say in the start of the video, that it's not necessarily going to be, how to put an exhaust on or how to put a cam in the car. It's just, what are we doing? What are we going to go out and have some fun with today? So that's the idea behind my channel. So if you're new here, check out the channel. If it sounds like something you're interested in, click the subscribe button and, we'll go and have some fun from there. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Links to Jeff's YouTube and Instagram are in the description of this video. For anybody that doesn't know how to spell Zipity's Garage.
Well, that's the goofy thing. You can spell Zipity a half a dozen different ways.
That's true. Because
Disney does it one way with Zippity Doo Da Zip. That's a whole other story there. And then some people put 2 P's, 2 T's. I'm like, the license plate on my car is Zipity on the Corvette. So that's where the Zipity comes from, and that's where that spelling comes from. So it's Zipity. And, you and I have already, kind of briefly discussed, trying to do some collaboration stuff here. Once the spring and summer hits, I'm already planning on going to a track day. If anybody's interested, it's Cumberland Valley Corvette Club, CVCC. And it's the first weekend in May. It's up at Pocono. It's a great beginner course. They run the North course. It's a flat course, so there's not a lot of changes in elevation. So you can see the entire course on where you're running. Lots of runoff room, and they actually run it backwards on the tri-oval and then down through the infield. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, connect with me on Instagram or go over to CVCC, Cumberland Valley Corvette Club, for more information about that track event on May 1st and 2nd. The cool thing about that event, it's on a weekend. Not a lot of, it's harder and harder to find track events that are on a Saturday and Sunday. So,
Yeah.
and that's look. We need to have a call out and get get you up there, get 512 out there, get street speed, get all these guys from Pennsylvania to come out to Pocono and see if they can run around on a road course.
Yeah, that would be fun. I know I probably wouldn't even do good, but I'd still do it.
It's just to have fun.
Yeah. Muffin Monster actually had a funny question. He wanted to know if this was a crib or a casket. This is my daughter's crib. She's not in the room yet. She's still in my wife's bedroom, but in the next week or two, she'll be in here.
Oh, really? That's soon.
Yeah, and then I have to move this to my basement.
Yeah.
So I just recently painted that up, so now I can move down there and be cold. But,
yeah, you got to worry about the sound and the lighting and everything else, because that's what I'm learning about. When I'm shooting video in a garage, God knows what you're going to hear, because like you said, I've got refrigerators and freezers out there because I'm in the food service world, so I've got all kinds of appliances out there. And like you're saying, Dave, your neighbor next door is out there working on his shed, banging with a hammer, and you're trying to record stuff. So
yeah. Drew wanted to know, where's the parade? Drew, I'm assuming you mean the parade for his daughter for this weekend. You can just comment really quickly on that. If Drew's interested in coming out, once you email me the information, I can send it over to Drew.
Sure. To answer the question, I live in the Burlington County area, so it's going to be the town I live in is Hainesport. So it's between Mount Holly and Mount Laurel. It's a small little town. You blink, you miss it, kind of thing. But yeah, Hainesport is where it's at. So if anybody's interested, connect with me on Instagram or one way or another. So yeah, because the email address for me, it's the name of the channel at gmail.com. So it's pretty simple there as well.
Gotcha.
So
Muffin Monster said we need to have a cam install party.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be helping out my buddy Maddie's garage in the next probably month or so. He's putting a cam in his C6. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be helping him in his garage for that one.
We'll bring a 12-pack or a 30-pack, and we'll have some fun with it. Let me know when you're doing it.
Exactly, right? But if there's any other questions for Jeff, definitely leave those down in the comments. And Jeff, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to bring up that we didn't touch on.
No, I mean, first off, wanted to thank you for the invitation, because, like I said, I'm so stinking wet behind the ears in regards to all this YouTube stuff. I'm almost embarrassed by the first or second video that I put up, but I'm assuming most YouTubers are when they look back at their first couple of videos. But I'm learning how to do it. Like I said, I'm up to my eyeballs in the hobby. I might as well put some of it on tape and share what some of my experiences over the years and what I'm doing going forward, just to help share the hobby and the passion that's behind it. And I mentioned my club. I mentioned the Chip Miller organization. A lot of the different events that we've got coming up this year are going to be a lot of fun. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is definitely not the last time you'll be on the channel. So you'll be on here.
As I start to learn more about the Caravan in 2024, I doubt that I'm going to be the national chairman, because the museum, there's never been a repeat chairman from the national level. But I was 2-time for this region. So I'm not committing to being the captain for this region, but I'll certainly be on the team that's going to lead the logistics of it, whether it be a co-captain or a local leader. So, I'll certainly be championing and getting information out about that Caravan, because something like that, of that magnitude, you've got to, get yourself planned and ready to go well in advance, talking 18 to 24 months of planning on trying to put something like that together. So, I'm assuming I'll be involved in that next Caravan in some fashion. So that's something that we'll be talking about going forward as well.
Nice. Cool. I think that's it, Jeff.
All right. Hey,
Thanks for coming on again.
Absolutely, man. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much. So,
Yep, it was a lot of fun. If anybody has any questions for Jeff, well, actually, Jeff, how big is your diecast collection?
I'll do a video on it. You know what? I haven't counted them. There is a short video on my channel right now that talks about the way I display the Hot Wheels, and you can get a quick little glimpse of what they look like. You know, there's probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 hung vertically, and I'm trying to think how many are going across horizontally, but it's probably 150, 200 Corvettes, all, you know, Hot Wheels and Matchbox and Johnny Lightnings and things of that nature. So that's one of the videos I'm going to do once I get the rest. I just installed some new brackets to hang the Hot Wheels. Now I just got to get off my butt and hang the Hot Wheels on them. So, but again, with the anal retentiveness of me and OCD, I want to put them in model year order. So I just don't put new ones up. You know, if I get a car from the 60s, I got to move all the cars from the 70s, 80s, and 90s out of the way so I can get the car up from the 60s.
Yeah, the funny thing is, since we're talking about that, my mom got me a C7 Hot Wheels like 2 days before. No, she got it for me for Christmas.
Okay.
And I bought my car on January 2nd. So when she got it for me for Christmas, I'm like, Ma, you know I'm going to look at one like tomorrow, right? And she's like, really? And it was a yellow C7. And it was funny. I'm like, because I'm going to look at a yellow C5, and obviously if I like it, I'm coming home with it. And that's what happened. So that was kind of funny.
Here's my inspiration. You know, this sits right in front of my, you know, desk here for work. So you know, hope, you know, one day get, you know, I don't know that it'll be blue, but I'd still love to get into a new one. So
one other question: favorite cars besides the Corvette?
I love the CTSVs, the last generation, like with the wagons.
Those wagons are wicked.
Would love a CTSV wagon with a manual. That to me is a unbelievable car. Right now, what's out there? You said I love driving a manual, so I try and, you know, stick in that regard. And there's just not a lot of manuals left. But you know, don't get me wrong. I think a Porsche, you know, it's not like you're locked into one genre. And some people may kill me for saying this, but, you know, a Mustang GT 500 Shelby, that flat plane crank in that thing, that just screams. You know, so, you know, it runs the full gamut. I had a Mini Cooper, absolutely loved the Mini Cooper. You know, if I wasn't driving my 3 Series, I don't know. Like I said, I'd like to replace it with a C7. But you know, trying to think. That's a damn good question, because you know,
yeah.
The what was it? The Audi, the new Audi that just came out, the RS6 Avant.
Yep.
Again, CTSV wagon. Give me another $100,000 wagon. I'll take that one too.
Yeah, I watch dipyourcar.com. The guys that always, you know, put dip on our car, and he just picked up an RS6 Avant, and that thing is wicked.
Yeah, there was one, again, the Cars and Coffee video I did most recently. Guy showed up with one who just picked it up from, you know, getting paint protection and the clear bra and everything else put on it. Absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, the brake rotors on the thing, you could put a friggin' pizza on the front of that thing, because, you know, probably weighs 4,500 pounds, if not more. You know, they got to bring that thing to a stop with the, and that was the steel rotors. It didn't even have the carbon ceramics.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, I know maybe the question was just for you, but I mean, the car that, when I was looking for my C5, it was a C5 or it was a Trans Am.
Okay. Yeah.
So the LS1 Trans Ams. So, I mean, we were talking a little bit before about like a 4-seater car.
Yeah.
I would love to add a Trans Am so that I can take that down to the beach and all that shit and have a good time with the family.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunately, my wife has something to say about that, because somebody said, you know, they sell a Corvette style crib and I should get one. Yeah. That's my wife's idea. All right. I have no say when it comes to decor and other things like that, and she'd be mad if I added another.
How come the room's not painted yellow? Come on.
Actually, no, wait. It wasn't this room. It was my son's room before we had my son. It was painted yellow.
Yeah, you should have kept it that way.
Should have kept it. I wanted to keep it, but she wanted to paint it blue, so that's what we did.
It's funny. You talk about the Trans Am. Cool car that I would like, to add as a fun car. I'd love to get like I don't even know what year they are, but like a 90s IROC Z. Camaro IROC, again, to your point, along the lines of the Trans Am. It's got a back seat. I think they had 190 horsepower, so it's not like they're, blisteringly fast or anything like that. But
the problem is, though, Jeff, you need the mullet.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a problem when it comes to hair on her head.
Exactly. Like we were joking earlier, I was going to show up in a wife beater with a gold chain and and my white New Balance sneakers on tonight. Not with they wouldn't even tie up; they would be Velcro strapped. New Balance sneakers. So you got to fit the stereotype of a Corvette owner. So, but I think this younger generation that's buying them now is going to completely change that look. So.
Yeah.
All good.
Yep.
So.
All right, guys. If there's no other questions for Jeff or myself, everybody have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know what the view count went up to, but I appreciate everyone that did jump in. Jeff, again, I appreciate you for jumping on. On a Wednesday night. It's now 10:30. So appreciate you jumping on. Appreciate everybody that joined in. And Next week, I will have Jamal's Garage on, which I know you're new into the YouTube world, but Jamal, he has a C5Z. I don't know the year. I know it's blue.
All right.
And he's actually one of the reasons why I started YouTube.
So it's probably an 02 or 03.
I believe so.
04, it's gonna be Electron Blue because they didn't do. It was either Electron Blue or Le Mans Blue. They didn't do the Nassau Blue as a Z.
Yeah, John said in 03, so I guess John watches Jamal's Garage too.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, but he's one of the reasons why I started YouTube. So I'm going to be bringing him on next week.
And what night is that?
I believe we're probably going to try and head back to Tuesday.
Okay, cool. Then I'll make sure.
So, let me see if there's anything else. Okay. Someone said when I bought my C5. I came from looking from a Chevelle, which didn't go too well. Weren't too many of them out there in the range, unfortunately. So, okay. Cool. Well, Jeff, thanks again. And thanks for everybody joining in this week in the passenger seat. And like I said, next week I'll have Jamal's Garage on Tuesday. And I'll see everybody again then. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.